She sat alone, tears streaming down her face, kneeling at a grave in the quiet cemetery. Her hands trembled as she clutched a faded photograph, whispering words only the wind could hear. Life had not been kind to her, and in that moment, the weight of her struggles seemed unbearable. Little did she know, someone was watching from a distance, a man whose presence carried an air of wealth and authority. A millionaire, successful in every way except in matters of the heart, had paused, shocked by the raw emotion before him. "That's my wife's grave, what's your story?" he asked, his voice breaking the heavy silence. The young woman froze, startled, unsure how to respond. Why was this stranger speaking to her here, in this place of sorrow? Was he angry, curious, or something more complicated? As the two stared at each other, the air felt thick with unspoken questions and hidden pain. Every passerby would have overlooked the encounter, but fate had a different plan. What secrets did she carry? And why did his words stir something deep inside her? In that quiet cemetery, their worlds collided, and neither could have predicted how one question would change both of their lives forever. The young woman's eyes flickered up to meet his, filled with a mix of fear and curiosity. She hesitated, her voice barely above a whisper. I come here often," she said, "to remember someone I lost, someone who mattered more than anything." Her words hung in the air, heavy with grief, but she didn't reveal the full story, not yet. The millionaire studied her carefully, noticing the worn shoes, the threadbare coat, the quiet dignity in the way she carried herself despite obvious hardship. There was something in her sadness, something raw and genuine, that stirred memories he had buried long ago. He had always lived in a world of luxury and control, yet here was a stranger whose pain felt real and unshielded. For a moment, neither spoke. The cemetery around them seemed to shrink, isolating the two in a bubble of grief and curiosity. Questions buzzed in his mind. Who was this woman? Why did she cry at this grave that had meant everything to him? And most importantly, could her story somehow connect to the emptiness he had carried since losing his wife? As the wind rustled through the trees, the tension between them grew, leaving a quiet promise of revelations yet to come. Neither of them realized how this chance meeting could unravel the carefully constructed walls around their lives. The young woman shifted uncomfortably, hugging her coat tighter as if shielding herself from more than just the cold. Her story wasn't easy to share, and yet something about the millionaire's presence, his quiet attention, his unexpected gentleness, made her pause. "I lost my family a few years ago," she admitted finally, her voice trembling. "Since then, I've been trying to survive, one day at a time." Her words were simple, but they carried a weight that money or status could never touch. The millionaire nodded slowly, sensing the depth behind her pain. He had known loss too, and in a strange way, her grief mirrored his own. But while he had resources to shield himself, she had only resilience, and that resilience had led her here, to this very grave, at this very moment. As they talked, shadows of other people's lives began to brush against their own. Nearby, a groundskeeper paused, curious but wary. A woman walking her dog slowed, sensing the unusual tension. In the midst of the cemetery's quiet, small details hinted at larger stories, hidden connections, and secrets neither of them were ready to face. The air felt heavier with each passing second. The millionaire wanted answers, yet feared what they might reveal. The young woman felt the stirrings of trust but feared betrayal. And somewhere in the background, the memory of the wife whose grave they stood before lingered, a silent witness to a story that was far from over. The silence between them stretched, broken only by the distant caw of a crow and the soft rustle of leaves. The young woman glanced down at the grave again, her fingers tracing the cold stone as if it could offer comfort. The millionaire watched her closely, trying to read her expression, searching for a crack in the wall she had built around herself. He could sense there was more, so much more, but every word she hadn't said felt like it carried the weight of a lifetime. Her eyes welled up again, and this time, the tears weren't just for the person buried beneath the stone. They were for the hardships, the loneliness, the invisible battles she fought daily. He felt a pang in his chest, a mix of empathy and frustration, wanting to help but knowing he couldn't erase her pain with wealth or influence. Then, without warning, she let slip a fragment of her past, a detail that made him freeze. It was something only a handful of people could know. His mind raced, connecting dots he hadn't realized existed. Could her story be tied to events he had buried deep in his own life? Was this encounter really coincidence, or something far more dangerous or profound? The wind picked up, carrying with it an almost whispering tension, as if the cemetery itself was holding its breath. Every glance, every pause, every unspoken word pushed them closer to a revelation neither was prepared for. And in that quiet moment, the air seemed charged with the promise that nothing would ever be the same. Just as the millionaire was about to speak, a sudden sound made them both jump, a car door slamming somewhere near the edge of the cemetery. The young woman's eyes darted toward the entrance, her body tense, as though she had expected someone else to appear. He noticed the change immediately, the shift from sorrow to something sharper, more guarded. Who's coming?" he asked quietly, but she didn't answer right away. Her gaze lingered on the shadows between the trees, and for the first time, he saw fear, not just sadness, but real fear. It's someone from my past," she whispered, her voice tight. "Someone I thought I'd left behind forever." The millionaire's mind raced. He had come seeking answers, a connection, maybe even closure, but now there was a new, unseen player in this fragile moment, and he had no idea whether they were friend or threat.